Hello and welcome to ASB TDC TV, a product of a partnership between the University of Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center and the Northwest Arkansas Council Small Business Emergency Assistance Program. In this series, we're talking with small businesses, experts, and ASB TDC consultants about the relevant and right now topics and solutions for business. I'm Amy Robinson.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Case, and we're here today with Virginia and Rob, who have been just invaluable to our restaurant forum and what you guys have added to it and the best practices. And Virginia, I have to tell you, I always say I need a Virginia of my own. So that's all. I just want you just in my own pocket just for a little bit every day. But I can't do that, so we've got the next best thing. But Rob, I'm going to pass it to you first because, you know, like I said just a second ago, you have given so much information. How can you give weeks of information condensed down to 10, 15?
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, I think some of the things we've been talking about is, you know, so much has been going on and a lot of small businesses are having to deal with things, specifically restaurants are having to deal with things that are incrementally difficult, you know, even more difficult than just running a restaurant, which has its own you know, unique challenges. And so, as you know, I've talked to people and spoke with, you know, you guys, you know, a lot of times people are trying to figure out, you know, aside from all this PPP work and all this other business we're trying to sort out, how do I grow my revenue and run my business in an environment that there's issue with consumer demand because of concern around, you know, coronavirus, you know, as well as a really difficult regulatory environment for restaurants at the moment. And they're being faced with questions, you know, should I open, should I not open, you know, should I, you know, do curbside, should I be developing kits for home, should I be going to grocery stores, like what should I be doing to drive revenue? And what I've been trying to encourage people to do is, you know, those are all super important questions, but there's this moment where it's really helpful, I think, for people to step back and say, you know, what is my concept? You know, like what value do I bring? And when Virginia and I worked at Ropeswing together, you know, we did new concepts, and a lot of the questions we would ask is, what is this concept? Why am I doing it? Why does it have a right to exist? And who is it for? You know, before we ever got to the point of actually developing the concept. And it's super important to go there because that will tell you, once you get a handle on that, you know, what sorts of R&D you should be doing, what sorts of changes to your operation, should you completely rethink your concept. And so we normally focus on the who, because, you know, so much of that tells you if the who is this for, it's families, that tells you a lot about, you know, maybe you should be doing meal kits, maybe value is important, maybe their life has changed drastically with kids at home. And so that tells you, like, you know, I need to be thinking about how their life has changed and then how my capacity as an operator can pivot to help, you know, help meet some new needs. Mm-hmm. So as you kind of think through all the concept, you know, what is my concept? Meaning, like, what are my capacities, my resources, my emotional resources, my financial resources? You know, why am I doing this and who is it for? You can jump into just this basic, you know, business model of I'm going to try to raise my revenue and drop my expenses. And in the restaurant business, so much of our revenue, you can simplify it down to, it's about traffic, how many people are coming in the door. It's about how much they're spending when they're there. And it's about how fast you can turn people off the restaurant. And so we can't do much about traffic at the moment. That's something that, again, regulatory environment, consumer demand, all those things are affecting a very important aspect of revenue. But encouraging people to really focus on some fundamentals of their business, around how they can grow that spend when people do come in, and how they can make the customer journey more efficient so that they're turning limited tables faster, is a really good place to kind of get back to a really strong operating core business that will help you get through this and come out the other side in a much stronger position.
That's a really good point, Rob, about, you know, in a time when everything's changing so rapidly, the fundamentals can easily go by the wayside. The things that were always things that we went back to and going, so it's almost not instinctual to go back to the core of the business and back to who the customer is and who they are right now, because we're all kind of in crisis mode and constant change mode and adapting and innovating on a regular basis. So one of the things that I appreciated in the restaurant forum call was that there was kind of a, let's all recenter and take stock of where we are now, and the fact that those can iterate pretty rapidly when they're at the core, when they're in the focus and those fundamentals. So you mentioned traffic, and one of those things that we can't control. And so I hear what you say. What you're saying is, what can we control? And so what are some of those things that Virginia are rapidly changing for you, that some of these fundamentals have helped in bringing those changes and adaptations about?
I think I would describe it in phases. In the very early days, I went into planning mode, what if COVID hits? And then we quickly went into shutdown because COVID did hit. We shut down for a bit. Then we reopened on a limited basis, and the reopening was really about hunkering down for a couple of weeks. We thought, this is a 2-week thing. And so we were just scrambling. When we saw it was going to be a little more than 2 weeks, the big word now is pivot, right? We had to do some non-traditional things for many of our concepts. As Rob said, meal kit subscription services where we delivered, fully cooked meals to families. We opened a community store at the Holler, and through our food supply chain, we're able to offer things to the community that they couldn't otherwise get in the grocery stores. Extended delivery, takeout, just any way we could to drive traffic and take food to the folks that couldn't get out to eat. And then now our focus is extending outdoor seating, which seems to be going quite well. So through those peaks and valleys, there's little time to really get back to the fundamentals almost. And it really is, as things now are settling down, it's getting back to just every dish have a recipe written down. Is it costed properly? When was the last time you costed it? Does your menu look right? And then I'm actually in our office today because we're now talking about, if we keep saying the next normal, but maybe this is the normal. What if it is, then what do we do in this phase? And if we were opening a business today, a restaurant, how would you build it? And so we are relooking at every concept and every aspect, the hours we're open, what we offer. I think it's just really time to review because we don't know how long we'll be in the current state. And once we get into the next normal, what the next normal will look like. So I don't think hunkering down, waiting for days to resume back to where they were is a prudent course of action. So I think it's constantly looking at what are you currently doing? What do you need to do right now in the moment? And then if we stay in this state, how do we need to operate? So that's what I would offer.
Yeah, and just to jump in on that, I watched Ropeswing as they were kind of going through some of this, and in that process of rethinking the concept, you're rethinking your menu. Is my menu efficient? Is my pricing right? Because if nothing else, increasing your pricing a little bit just to include the new cost of PPE and all the new labor you need just to make sure that we're being safe. So if you're leaving money, if people are willing to spend more and that pricing is off, you're leaving money on the table, and I watched something Virginia did with the subscription service at Ropeswing, just kind of capturing those future sales. I thought that was a really cool idea, and just really focusing on things like selling, gift cards. Like I use this example of, working with realtors a lot because they're always looking for little gifts to give people. There's these other ways to grow that spend. But also thinking through things that I know, Ropeswing and others have been working on, substituting up. So if example I use is if you go to a coffee shop, you get a latte, and then someone offers you, hey, if you buy a pound of beans, I'll throw in the latte for free. You just traded a $2 margin for a $6 margin, potentially. And I think those are all really easy ways to grow that spend when someone's in the store, not to mention just making sure that they're building that ticket. I think that's, when revenue is good, we just kind of bring people in and they buy stuff and they leave. But now being a little bit more thoughtful about how you can grow the ticket. If they're just giving a glass of wine, is there a natural upsell? That I think training people to do that because it wasn't really worth the time if business was good. But now growing that ticket is going to be more important than ever to make every transaction count.
Finding that it's taking, so people are not sitting for as long. And so a lot of the, ticket growth would be in the form of alcohol, that extra glass of wine, some of those other things. So in growing the ticket, what are some of the, in addition to the latte example, what are some of the things that you're finding is working in growing the ticket when people are not there for quite as long these days?
I think I'll jump in there. I think on the outdoor seating, folks are actually, it's almost the reverse. They're staying longer because they can visit with their friends outdoors and maybe spend a little less. And so there have been some discussions on, how do you encourage folks to either move along or like we had on the call last week, at least spend some dollars while you're there taking up a table. I will say things like getting to Rob's point, getting back to basics, as you approach the table, asking if they prefer sparkling water, or we're still offering that first, or, just starting at the beginning of the meal and recommend an appetizer as they sit down instead of, would you like a starter? Our hush puppies are great tonight. Bring them the dessert menu, talk about what's amazing, offer them, I noticed that the two of you are, both buying the same glass of wine. I recommend a bottle. So I think it's the fundamentals that folks knew, but when times were great, it was really about turning and burning. Just let's get people in and out, more tickets. But now it's time to get back to service and make it an excellent service. And to Rob's point, it's added cost with labor to really maintain the safety measures that we have to maintain. But the feedback we get is that that's the highest compliment we get right now during COVID is how seriously we're taking it. Our guests must wear masks. We have a dedicated safety crew member on every shift whose whole purpose during that shift is to clean. And so I think that's served us well.
You guys have really thought of the people side of everything. That's what was so interesting to me and so fascinating is, you were correlating the innovative part of the business, but you were also thinking about the people. You guys did a video that kind of what to expect, which I thought was phenomenal. You had a complete handout or document for your employees of what to expect. I mean, you guys just have always really kind of partnered the people with the business. And I think that's what really impressed me with you guys from the get-go.
Yeah. That's how I landed in Ropeswing. That's what Rob hired me to do.
That's why you're so good, because you are.
Well, and I think in addition to, caring about the people, you also have been caring about the community. And I know that for us, your willingness to share any of those documents, any of those tips, any of those links, any of those resources with the rest of the restaurant community in the region has been wonderful and phenomenal. And it's really given some restaurants a leg up, or at least just something to think about that maybe in crisis mode they didn't have time or capacity to think about. So that's also been really wonderful. Rob, you mentioned a little bit, because a lot of this does go to some bottom line realities in our world. And one of the things that I know a lot of people talk about when they talk about restaurants is margin, like they're really slim. And so one of the things that I really loved about when you were talking about all of those things is we're shifting margins, right? When you're talking about if you're adding the cost of PPE, where are you saving, but then also how are you maintaining the quality, or even maybe you're shifting expectation or changing the menu to meet that, meet some of those changes. So where does that boil down to the bottom line in a lot of this?
Well, I think getting back to just that raising revenue, lowering expense, part of, raising revenue is having a more efficient menu. So if you start at the cost, it's not always the best place to start. It's like, what is the assortment on my menu? Do I, cost aside for a minute, do I have a menu that, my staff can execute? Is it something that we're going to be able to do consistently and cost effectively that I can train my staff against, given their skill level? I think I see some really ambitious menus out there still right now, which, is difficult, especially if it's in delivery, but it's also about speed, like having that assortment of the menu to make sure that you still have, great food, but can you have more items that can be fired quickly or pulled out of pantry? and you know, actually serve quicker, to both grow the ticket and to turn tables faster. You know, I think that's a really important thing. And then, of course, taking the pricing and then getting down to the costing of it, as Virginia said, you know, am I calculating my cost right? Is the recipe have too many ingredients? Do I calculate my yield correctly, or am I kind of underestimating my cost of goods? I think all those things add up to an efficient menu. And the most important thing, I think, something that, you know, doesn't matter. You know, I've been an independent operator, and I've you know, worked at Ropeswing, which was you know, a larger company. And it doesn't matter if you're a small operator or a big operator, some of those things don't happen, right? Because you're focusing on other things. And we keep talking about the good old days, and it has been fantastic for restaurants over the last few years until recently. And, you know, when revenue's coming in, it just covers up a lot of really bad habits, right? And, you know, why wouldn't it? I mean, you know, if you're focusing on growing revenue, naturally some of those fundamentals and some of that just good, efficient business is going to atrophy a little bit. And that's what I think a lot of people are having to reconcile at the moment.
I love that. Well, and I love, yeah, Virginia.
I think that's why this forum has been so great. I've really enjoyed being a part of it, so thank you. I think what you all are helping with is, I didn't grow up in the hospitality industry. And so when I look at something and I'll ask the question, why are you pricing the salad based on dry chickpeas and not cooked chickpeas? Or to Rob's point of view. And so sometimes, and then it's like, well, I don't know. So sometimes in these forums, when we talk about things like this, or you have a third party come in and ask the question, you know, you have too many ingredients you're only using in one place on your menu. It's inefficient, to Rob's point. I think that's helpful. So this group and you all, that's where I think you can really contribute to folks, is to say, hey, you need to go back and look at some of the fundamentals. And if you're starting from scratch, is this how you would run it?
Well, and I do think that it has been, I know for us, for Chris and I, being able to hear all of the patterns, but also just creating that space where what you're doing right now is everybody can push pause and kind of share where they are and what they're going through at any given time. And, you know, but again, to what Chris said, Virginia, you've been so invaluable. And Rob, you are part of our team to help share some of these best practices and consult with restaurants and businesses. So we really thank you for being here. And if you need to, would like to join the forum, or would like access or to us or to Rob, there's a lot of information there on your screen to contact us. So I just want to thank you all for being here today. And thank you for joining us. If you have a suggested topic, a question that you need answered, someone you'd like to hear from, or a story that you'd like to share, please contact us at bizhelp, BUSHELP @uark.edu, and put TV in the subject line. If you're interested in benefiting from our one-on-one assistance or being part of the forum, please sign up at sbtdc.uark.edu. Thank you all so much for being here today. I just really appreciate you. So
thank you both.
Thank you.